Hello and welcome to the Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. I'm your host, Dr. David Hardy. And today on our show, we've got another amazing guest. He is the founder and CEO of Ensure MEP, has launched innovative products like a robotic pet therapy brand for dementia patients, and has had an amazing career as an executive producer for TV productions that include Disney, Miss America pageant, and several extreme sports. Welcome to the show, Craig Carroll. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Mr. Hardy. It is a pleasure to be with the great doctor.
Well, I appreciate that. And yeah, each time I talk to you, you are this energetic, straightforward shooter. Like, it is always just a good conversation to have with yourself, and just to check in and see where things are going for you. And right now you're in the midst of starting up and going for a pretty big project here. What is going on with your latest creation here?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. My latest creation is a hybrid of kind of two skill sets I've developed over the last 10 years, which is being an executive in the property tech world or prop tech, and being an executive in the insurance technology world or insurtech. So I've kind of melded those two together. I've got a software that basically helps map and understand the infrastructure of large commercial properties, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Um, and then I've got another analysis package that does an analysis on it for the insurance industry. So it's a bit complex and very heady, but it's helping large commercial properties manage their infrastructure and get better insurance rates. And who doesn't want to save money on their insurance every year? So that's my latest project. I think that one of the most interesting things about this project is that the software, which is called Critical Asset or criticalasset.com, was a software I developed in my prop tech career 10 years ago.
Okay.
And 5 years ago, in a sort of a coup d'etat, the venture capital partners pushed me out. They had funded the company, and I think they felt that
Wow.
what I was doing was easy. I had tons of big clients: United Airlines, Delta Airlines, hospitals, cities, universities. And they thought, well, if Craig Carroll can do it, then what if we bring in some Stanford boys or, some professional management to come in? And they had the power. They pushed me out, and I remember that day distinctly, thinking, "This is like, could it get much worse than this?" Like I birthed this baby from an idea. I got
Right.
funding. I scrapped. I fought for 5 years. I got all these gigantic clients who all said they loved it. And then just when like it was not quite on Easy Street, but I could see Easy Street around the corner, the venture capitalists pushed me out. And this has kind of been a theme in my life where sometimes what seems like the worst possible situation actually works out like completely to be the best thing that could happen to me.
Yeah, well, on that point though, geez, this must have been like you're in the midst of a battle with this, are you not? Like you've started this. This is your baby, and all of a sudden you've been told, get out. You're no longer welcome in your own company that you started. Like, emotionally, what were you going through? Like, this must have been gut wrenching for you.
It's a dark place. It's really easy to
Yeah.
go into a really dark place. I am not a guy that's prone to go into depressive episodes because I just am not programmed that way. I'm a fighter. But I definitely, sat around thinking to myself in my house with nowhere to go because I didn't have a job anymore. Did anybody get the license plate of the truck that hit me?
Right.
And that,
Yeah.
that could be a dark cycle. Like it's real easy to cycle down the drain mentally. But your brain, your monkey brain starts talking to you, right? Telling you, all these terrible things. And you have
Oh,
to
yeah,
counteract.
your entire body must have like shut down in certain aspects as well. Like I've gone through employment issues too and business things that haven't gone right. And like I remember being so stressed out that I was sleeping like the majority of a day. Like I just felt horrid. Um, was this similar that to something you felt during this, or were you already ready, kind of a veteran and getting run over by a truck?
I think it's a little bit of both. I had experienced loss, like tremendous personal loss, previously, and then survived it. I'm also just not prone to that. I'm like, okay, put my head up and get my back into it and figure out a solution. There's a quote that I kind of live by, and I basically make sure that every employee that I've ever had knows the quote and lives the quote. And the quote is simply, "There are no problems in life, only opportunities to find a more creative solution." And I don't just say that, I live it. Employees will come into my office and, start freaking out. We got a problem. And I was like, get out and come back in and rephrase that. And they're like, we got a big opportunity. Like, I can work with that. Okay. What's the opportunity? Right. So when this happened, sure. I sat around wallowing in my tears for a couple of days, but I got a call about 2 days after kind of word hit the street in LA that I was available. And a CEO of another prop tech company called me and he said, "Look, I want to have lunch with you. I want to talk to you about an idea I have." And his idea was that he had a prop tech company that was used by multifamily um, residential operators. So if you own hundreds of properties across America, you're going to have different property management companies that take care of the property and collect the rents. And the problem was they all do it differently. So this company called Leonardo247.com, you basically deploy the software and now everybody's reporting it up the same way. This guy's like a 60, $70 million company. He's got a couple million apartments under management. And he reasoned that insurance companies should give a discount for his software because ultimately he believed that his clients had less claims. On paper, it seems plausible. So he basically said, I want you to go convince insurance carriers to offer a discount because if they do, that will offset the cost of my software and really drive software sales. And I was like, sounds great on paper, but I don't know anything about insurance. Like, I'm not an insurance guy. Go hire an insurance expert. And he sort of
Right.
got
Yeah.
quiet and he said, well, I hired two insurance executives and they both failed miserably at it. I was like, okay, now that's interesting to me. So I laid down some ground rules and I said, given that I don't have an experience in that level of insurance, here's the number you have to pay me. You have to give me a year, right? You're not going to hear from me. I'll check in once a month, but I don't want you calling me all the time. Like I need a year to study this business. And then I'll come back and I'll tell you, how it'll work, if it'll work. So almost 11 months later, I had
So
spent.
so hold on though. I'm on the other side of this table, and okay, if I'm this guy, I'm like, okay, I'm going to be paying you this insane wage, and maybe hear from you once a month, and then at the end of a year after I've paid and paid you, then the solution pops out. What sort of faith did this guy have in you? Like, you must have had a pretty good reputation and credentials or something behind you.
Well, not only did he have to pay me a good salary, but he had to pay my expense account, and
Yeah.
I live a pretty good life. So, yeah, I mean, he was into it for about $250,000 before he got any answer. And look, my reputation is I'm a maverick. I move mountains. I have often been hired to fix problems that other people couldn't fix, to attain things that other people couldn't attain, and that's a whole other story. So I definitely have a reputation as a guy with a very unique toolbox. And
Yeah.
I've been. I would think I was kicked out of every single school I ever went to from the third grade on, including college. I'm not, shy about that. One of my favorite things is to have Harvard consultants work for me. And then at some point, we end up going to dinner and we have the conversation about where I went to business school, or B school, as they always say. And I was like, I didn't go to B school. And they're like, well, where'd you go to your undergraduate? I go, I went for 1 year to a third rate ski school in New Hampshire so I could ski, and I got expelled. And that just deflates them immediately, because they just can't quite understand how they're still paying off their college loans but working for me, the college dropout. So that's my reputation. And that's exactly what this guy needed in this situation. And the reality was, after 11 months, I came back to him and we sat at dinner, and I said, well, I got good news and bad news. The guy's name is Daniel Cunningham, and he was the founder of this company and led it until very recently. And I said, I got good news and bad news. So, pick the one you want first. And he's like, I want the bad news. And I said, well, the bad news is your idea won't work. And it won't work for the following reasons, which was basically that underwriters are accountants, they're actuaries for all intents and purposes. And you need to be able to demonstrate 10 years of empirical data before Leonardo 247 was launched, and 5 to 10 years after. Like, you need to make a direct correlation, which he couldn't do because he didn't have empirical data before Leo was deployed. So he's like, and so now this guy's staring down at $250,000 plus down the drain. And he's like, well, what's the good news? I said, the good news is I came up with a bigger idea and a way to spin this off as a separate company. And that's exactly what we did.
Yes.
He ended up spending another $750,000. So, while he thought he was going to pay me 175 for a year, it turned out 250 for that first year with my expenses. And then he dumped in another $750,000. However, that company is now a very successful company. We spun it off about a year later. It was funded by JLL's venture capital group, Spark. And we raised about 3.1 million, and it is on track to do 25 million in revenue this year. And essentially what I did is I designed an algorithm, and that algorithm basically looked at every task that every property manager across America did. Did they do it successfully or not do it successfully? Did they check the chlorine levels in the pool on Thursday? Did they check the roof inspection once a month? And I looked at all those, and the algorithm basically gave them a score, kind of like a FICO score in America is for credit. Okay. So I designed a FICO score for operations for anything related to what could become an insurance claim. So if a chlorine burn in a pool is a popular claim, then the more you check the chlorine levels in the pool, the better your score. And so that algorithm basically created a delta between good operators and bad operators. And then we funded, which is it's a little kind of complicated, but we basically white labeled another insurance company's product, and so we created our own insurance carrier, writing property and general. So an idea that I knew nothing about. I knew absolutely nothing about the space. It's called an MGA, or managed general agency, and in a year I knew everything about it. I knew the right players. I got the insurance companies to agree, and that company's off and running. So that's a typical example of a negative where I got kicked out of my own company, turned into a positive because I got to learn this total new business, make a bunch of money, and I own a percentage of that company as part of my fee. And eventually I'll have a multi-million-dollar exit from that. And, that'll just be another check in the box for Craig Carroll.
Fascinating. And now from this, what's kind of the next stage after you get this spin to happen?
So the next stage is about 8 months ago. I'm at the insurance carrier. I'm working, and kind of feeling bored because I like to build things. I don't really like to run them. Like once they're
Yes.
they're just donuts going down the factory floor, they don't need me. Like I like broken things and fixing them. And I found out my old company, my old prop tech company, was for sale. And of course, I'd been watching the professional management come in and slowly run the company into the ground. They brought in not one, but two professional managers. And between the two of them, they took the company from 30 clients to 4 clients. And
No
from,
way. Jeez.
from a 7-figure annual reoccurring revenue to under 100,000. So
So you
the
had to
company was,
rebuild it.
well, I had to get it first. So the company was essentially in bankruptcy. It was for sale. It had been for sale for a year. Nobody had come up with a viable offer, and I knew the venture capitalists would never sell it to me just out of spite. Just the concept of me coming back and buying the company out of the ashes and then rebuilding it would be way too much for their egos to handle. They would
Right.
rather just kill it, just shoot it in the side of the road.
Yeah.
So I had my girlfriend buy it as a straw buyer. So I made up this whole backstory about why she would want to buy it because I knew they would do due diligence on her, like who is this woman and why does she want to buy it. And I completely created a legitimate looking shell that she owned, and she bought it for pennies on the dollar. And now we are rebirthing the company. We just closed our first new client, a high rise in New York City, the former Ritz Carlton building, and the company's taken off. And it's just another example of, like, I got kicked out of that company. I thought it was the worst thing. I accepted it. I zenned out about it. I call it being in the whitewater when you're surfing. You're thrown around upside down, head first into the ground. You just gotta like relax and let it go because you can't fight it, right? I couldn't
Right.
fight my way back into my old company, right? But I could just accept it that something better would happen. And so what I ended up doing with the insurance company is benefiting me now because now I understand that the software I designed 10 years ago that I got kicked out of was actually like a great software for the insurance company to use. But I didn't understand risk and risk mitigation. And so I went to this insurance school essentially for 4 years, all about
Right.
risk. And I was able to apply those lessons to this company. And so as I rebirth the company, there's a totally different sort of um, kind of approach, like a approach that I'm taking to selling the product, and people are reacting completely differently. Whereas before, it was kind of hard to sell. Facility managers all wanted it, but they didn't really have a budget. I'm not selling it to facility managers anymore. I'm having insurance brokers introduce it to ownership and saying, "Hey, if you want better insurance rates, get this software, and it will help us go back to the carriers and negotiate better rates." So
Now,
it's just
another thing though that's kind of strikes me as being impulsive or maybe brilliant was when you said you got your girlfriend to purchase this company for you. Like that's a lot of trust. Like this is some money. This is taking some scheming. So you know that she's probably a schemer as well.
Well,
And
I'm definitely that. I'm definitely, if I'm nothing, I'm creative. And what's funny is I met her on Bumble. I had just gone through a horrific divorce. I was actually in the middle of it. I met her on Bumble, and we totally hit it off, and we started hanging out. And about a year later, she's like, "I think you should move in." Well, it's not just me. I'm a single dad, and she doesn't have any
right.
kids and never wanted any kids. And she finally met my son, and she really liked him. My son's 16, but he's a teenager.
Yep.
So she had lived alone for 20 years, and all of a sudden she's living with this guy and his kid. And I'm like, "Hey, I got this crazy idea." Like, it started out at a breakfast conversation, and she's a kindergarten teacher who used to
Okay.
run IT. She understands IT, but she's not a prop tech or insure tech executive. And not only do I have this idea, but I need you to help fund it because I just went through an expensive divorce and I really don't have a pot to piss in. And I talked her into it. I did have some money. I got some backers. I had to transfer, about $100,000 into her account, and then she had to put in some money. But let me tell you, it was a freaking leap of faith. And I remember when she was signing the DocuSigns, and when you buy a piece of IP like this, it's not like a little simple document. There's like a dozen different documents and Delaware corporation formations and stock that has to be issued, and there's probably about 100 pages that you have to read. And I'm asking
Oh
somebody who's
yeah.
very intelligent. She has a master's degree in chemistry, but ultimately, it's a real leap of faith
No
She's
kidding.
she's basically buying this company, and she has clients like, gigantic clients, major clients that I can't mention, but they are gigantic Fortune 1000 companies that you probably, have their car parts, and you probably have their gaming systems in your house, and you'd be like, what? So, I guess I'm good at talking people into things.
Well, on top of this, though, you mentioned a messy divorce. Like, there must have been some trust issues here because, and not just this. Like, your amazing bounce back story in the business world is beyond amazing. But on top of this, the divorce was not your okay. Well, we're getting divorced. We're tired of each other. Let's be co-amicable. Um, that was nothing. This was probably something that dwarfed the VCs running you over with a truck. Am I right about this? Like, what happened in your divorce before this crazy situation now with your new girlfriend? Um, let
What?
us into this world in your life as well.
Like everything in my life, everything's outsized. Like, people always say, Craig, when you do something, it's like you're always on 11. And so, of course, my divorce also had to be on 11. And it's not a happy tale, although it had a happy ending.
Right.
But I was married to a woman for 19 years. I really loved her. I had a great life, a beautiful house in Palos Verdes. And on the outside, it seemed like everything was good. And I certainly did everything I could to keep it together. Unfortunately, my wife, about 5 years prior, really began to drink excessively. Started out each day with 1 to 2 bottles of red wine, lying about it. I mean, she's clearly
Mm-hmm.
hammered,
Right.
and um, like nothing I could do. I couldn't move that mountain, right? I couldn't get her into therapy. I tried couples therapy, singles therapy. My son and I tried to get her to go take a hugging class together. Like we tried the most random, crazy things. And I remember when I was trying to get her to the hugging class, like she was so angry and so filled with vitriol about the concept of going to a hugging class with me and my son. I thought, what am like? There's nothing I can do here that's going to work. And finally, on February 6th, 2023, I woke up, and she was drunk once again. And I just said, that's it. I can't take it. Like I never thought I would say this, because I treated the last 5 years like, hey, it's for better, for worse. This is the worst. You don't get to choose the times. And I finally said, it's just not healthy. It's not healthy for me. It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for our son. And I said, I want a divorce. And later on that day, she called the police and accused me falsely of domestic violence. And when you do something like that, it's a trigger, right? It triggers this whole process. And I
Yes.
hadn't had a traffic ticket in 30 years. I had never had any interaction with the police whatsoever. And I, basically had to leave my house, and I never walked back into my house again. I obviously, hired a legal team, and I got the charges dropped, and I was completely exonerated. And
Well, no, this is bigger though. Like, she made this allegation against you, and then what happened between you and your son?
well, it's the strategy is called the silver bullet strategy, and it's becoming very popular. It's not only women that do it, but it's like 98% women that do it. And it's
Right.
basically like you're going into a divorce, you call the police, you falsely accuse your mate of domestic violence. They are physically removed from the house. Now they have a charge against them, a misdemeanor. There was no black eye or anything like that. So there was no proof. It was just her word against mine. But what it does is starts a domino effect. And she clearly knew what she was doing, because the next level in the domino was to get a restraining order to keep me away from my house. She got a restraining order against my dog. I couldn't see my dog because I guess,
Your dog as well.
what she said to the judge to get me away from my German Shepherd. But and it was also my son. She got a restraining order. to keep me away from everything. And the idea is to really
And
destabilize.
how old is your son at this point in time?
My son had just turned 14
Just
and was
14.
there, watching the whole thing, was furious with her. And I had about 48 hours where, he was with me. He refused to go home. He was like, I'm not going home. I'm going to run away. I was like, you're not going to run away. He's like, we got to go on the lam, Dad. I was like, we're not going on the lam, Max. And I said, look, we're going to do this legally. I'm innocent. I'm innocent. This is going to have a happy ending, as dark as it looks right now. And so this is what I did. I went out and bought 2 leather bound notebooks, and I gave him one book and I took the other. And I said, look, Max, I don't know if this is going to be 2 weeks or 2 months or 2 years, but according to this court order that hasn't been delivered, but has been issued, I'm not going to be able to see you. I can't call you. I can't email you. I can't even phone you or text you or anything. I can't have any communication with you. I can't send you a package, nothing. I can't even have David Hardy call you and say he just talked to me and I'm thinking about you. It's called third-party communications. It's completely insane, but it's designed to really destabilize me. So I want you to take this book, and every day when you want to tell me something, I want you to write it in this book, and I'll do the same. And whenever we see each other again, we're going to switch books, and that's how I'm going to know what happened in your life, and that's how you're going to know what happened in my life and my thoughts. And it was like the hardest thing I've ever. That was the thing that really almost crushed my soul, was knowing that, first of all, I didn't know what was going to happen. My lawyers are like, she's been really preparing for this, Greg. Like, she's throwing the kitchen sink at you.
Right.
And
And this is an intelligent woman, right?
yeah,
Like very
speaks multiple
intelligent.
languages, speaks multiple languages, has 2 master's degrees, from the University of Toronto, which is the Harvard of Canada. Very, very bright, very bright. And, she threw everything she had in me. It was like, I walked into like a Gatling gun one day, and I was sitting there like, just, like a little rabbit. And that began this sort of like Sisyphean journey, and it was 4 months and 17 days. And my son was like, why don't you get me a burner phone, and we can keep in touch with that way? And I was like, no, because that's lying and that's illegal, and that's going to put you in jeopardy of having to lie. And then I learned everything. Just like the insurance business, I learned everything about family law. Like, I studied, I read, I talked to lawyers, I hired the best lawyers in LA. The former district attorney of Los Angeles, Steve Cooley, volunteered to come on my defense team because he thought it was so
Wow.
insane what was happening to me. And let me tell you, when the former DA of LA, who was the district attorney for 12 plus years, is on your defense team, people listen, right? Like, that
Yeah.
is not that you can't hire that guy. He has to get involved because he feels like it's egregious. And he did. He got very involved. I talked to him on a daily basis. And so I put together the dream team. I also, like everything, I figured out how to reverse engineer it, right? Like, okay, I can't talk to my son, right? I get that. Dr. Hardy can't talk to my son. Well, Dr. Hardy can, but he can't invoke my name. So I did a series of things to father my son from a distance. As an example, I got 2 of my friends that had dogs, and I basically hired them. I paid the freight for them to hire my son to dog walk. So they both hired him, and he would start dog walking. So I paid, probably a couple of $1,000s to walk their dogs, so they could interact with him. And then I would give them questions to ask him, and they would ask him those questions, and then I would give them my answers, but they would make it their own. So I was basically fathering my son without my son knowing it was coming from me. Right? Very, very, like, walking a very fine line, right?
Very
But
fine
the
line.
reality
Yes.
was, they were not talking to my son about me. They were listening to his issues, listening to his concerns, and giving their own manly advice, right? But it was all coming from me. And I would arrange sleepovers with other people who Max wasn't really particularly friendly with their kid, but they would really push to have a sleepover. So I knew he was in a bad environment, right? Because my wife was drinking every day, and then now all of a sudden, strange men were showing up, and it was as bad as you could possibly imagine. So I did everything I could to kind of keep my son out of the fray as much as possible. And so it took 4 months and 17 days, but I finally got a judge who was like, "This is insane. This guy is an amazing father. This is a travesty of justice." And in the matter of 4 days, the case completely turned around. Number one, I got my son his own lawyer. I found out who the top child advocate was in LA. I begged him to take the case. He said I can't. I'm busy for the next 6 months. And I was like, give me the number. And I was like, give me the number that I show up with an envelope of cash in the next 24 hours and you drop everything and take this case. And he gave me the number. And I went to my friends and they understood the pain that I was going through. And they opened up their bank accounts and gave me a big stack of cash. And I walked in and I handed it to him. And I was like, you work for me now. And so I got my son his own lawyer. So now my son could speak to the judge through his own lawyer. So I
Mm-hmm.
looked at the entirety of the case. I figured out, where there was little bits of light throughout the case. The sad thing is that if you don't have financial resources and you don't have the level of intelligence and the acumen and the drive and the intensity for a fight, and let me tell you, you want to have a fight with somebody, I'm a great candidate because I'll fight till I die. Right. And my ex wife should have known that. Like, it didn't matter what kind of sledgehammer she hit me with. I was always like, she better kill me because if there's one cell left in my body, I will heal and fight back. And that's exactly what I did. I found the little points of light. I hired the right people. But if you don't have those kind of resources, I could have easily never seen my son again because
Right.
she could have spent years indoctrinating him into this belief. I mean, she would tell him the most terrible things about me, that I didn't want him anymore, that I didn't love him. I mean, they were just ridiculous. But I had warned my son, and also he was 14. I had warned him that no matter what you hear, I want you to know two things. I love you unconditionally. And every day, all I think about is how to get you back. And all I do is work to get you back. So, like I said, I don't know how long it's going to be, but you just know that no matter what you hear, that I'm doing everything I can. And 4 months and 17 days later, at 3:30 in the afternoon, the court order came down that I could see my son. And 4 days later, the court basically said, my ex wife is completely unfit. She is completely unhinged. And I was awarded something that is incredibly rare, sadly, in the state of California and in this entire nation. I was awarded full and complete custody of my child. And until my wife goes through rehab and can prove it, meaning she has to blow into a sober link device, which demonstrates that she is alcohol free, until she does that, she has no rights to have any contact with my son. And that's hard for a young man to lose his mother. He didn't lose her in a car accident. She chose alcohol over a relationship with him.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I just surround him with so much love and really good people, and I got him in therapy and working through the trauma of what he saw. And he went through some terrible things for those 4.5 months, and honestly, I'll never really know the extent of it, but I experienced a lot of it firsthand, and when I wasn't
Oh,
there, he became
absolutely.
her ire. So
So
it's a sad story.
it sounds like your son has a little bit of the same kind of drives as yourself here, or emotionality tendencies, let's say. That yeah, get me a burner phone, dad. He's looking for these solutions as well. All right, so here's this traumatized teenager now, and you went through trauma as well.
Well, I
You had
wouldn't say he's
trauma
a
in your
traumatized.
businesses.
He's a very
And
positive person. He lives a positive life. Like the thing
yeah.
is to is
Well,
don't
well, hold on here, Craig. How do you coach your son through all of this in the same frame of mind that you made your employees walk in that door with? How are you coaching him? What lessons is he getting and gaining from this? And what are these teaching points for this amazing kid of yours?
I think it's be a glass half full guy. Find the joy in each day. I could get up every day
Yeah, yeah,
and
but those become cliche. In real life, how are you coaching this kid through this?
I mean, what I really say to him is like, look, your mother. If your mother had brain cancer, would you be mad at her? Your mother has a type of disease, right? It happens to be alcoholism. You have to feel sorry for her and be sad for her loss. Like somewhere deep
Right,
down, she made a series of horrific decisions, like epically bad, that caused a whole domino effect of terrible things to happen. She lost her house. She, had to move back to Canada. She's maybe living with her mother. I have no idea. I have no contact with her, but like your mother has a disease and you have to forgive her. Don't be angry at her. I'm not angry at her. I have no vitriol towards her. I feel sadness for her. She was the love of my life. There's parts of her that I miss every day. um
right,
I,
absolutely.
I've moved on, and I said, I don't know if she's ever going to come back, Max. I wouldn't count on it, but he unfortunately he's really angry with her, and
Yeah,
I don't want to use the word hate, but it's that's the biggest battle I have right now, is helping him navigate his feelings. And fortunately, our life is great. He has a great, woman in his life, my girlfriend, who's not his mother. She's not his stepmother. She's more like a cool aunt. They have their own great relationship, which is just for me was how I could move in here, right? Because they have their own separate relationship. Because they go off and do things together. I'm traveling. They, send me pictures of them having fun. I took him to a camp in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, for 3 weeks. He went to this wilderness adventures camp, and so Max and I went on a road trip across America. And the night before I dropped him off, my girlfriend Dina flew out to hang out with us, to take Max out to dinner, to say goodbye to him. Like who does that? Who flies across the country to say goodbye
right,
to
yeah,
her boyfriend's kid? So Max has a very rich life, and so I try to imbue the concept of living in gratitude. And I know you say it's cliche, but it's just a way of living. Like I get up every day and I'm thankful for what works on my body. Not mad about what doesn't work. Like I got plenty of
right,
injuries, right?
yeah,
I creak and I make weird noises and things pop, and sometimes like I'm like, oh, what was that? But I don't dwell on that. I dwell on the fact that hey, I'm not in a wheelchair. Hanging out, I'm going for a walk with my dog. Like, how lucky am I? I live in this amazing country. I have a refrigerator full of food, a roof over my head. That's that's how you got to live, live. I don't worry about yesterday. I don't think about tomorrow. I think about now. And
right,
that's something that I really embrace. I completely stopped drinking. Like I wasn't like a gigantic drinker like my wife, but I thought, hey, I'm going to be 100% sober. Right, I'm not going to touch anything, and that started right away. Like so now it's been like 2.5 years, and I am like Max. For me, I want you to see that I can be the same guy with no substance whatsoever, like no alcohol, no nothing. And so that's my gift to him. It's like you don't need alcohol. Alcohol is just it's fun. I like drinking scotch. I like having a few beers on a hot day, but it doesn't define me, and it doesn't. I don't need it. So I just try to be a good influence on him. I try to teach him to love. He's a gay teenager. I found that out recently. So I'm the father of a gay teenager. We're on this journey together. I
right,
go to
yeah,
gay events with him. I'm not a gay guy. I've had plenty of gay friends, but it's not a culture that I ever thought I'd be diving into the center of. But hey, my son's gay. Let's go do some gay fun stuff together. You know, like, let's go celebrate the culture. This is what you want.
Yeah,
Okay, let's
right.
dive in. You know.
So once again, as I said when we first started out on this, is that just listening to you is we get that mindset, we get the emotionality of like enjoy life and find all these little areas where you can make it even better and polish it. Um, so people are motivated listening to you, and they're going to be asking resources. And through all of this, you've been absolutely amazing at finding resources. So, where do people find resources and how do they reach you?
Well, I think the resources are within. I think I don't, you know more about the human brain than I do, but, we use a fraction of our brain. So the question is how to really tap into the, innate intelligence that you have. I think part of that comes from meditation and just quieting down the mind. I pray. I'm not a particularly religious person, but I take the time to just sit with myself and sit quietly and ask myself questions and seek the answers, whether God's giving them to me or my innate intelligence or some experience in my subconscious. I take the time to talk to myself. I use resources like I have a book that I love. It's called The Book of Positive Quotations. So I
Okay,
love
yeah.
this book. I When my mind gets into a negative frame set, I open the book and I just start reading quotes just randomly, and it changes my mindset. Um, you know, I'm an easy guy to reach. You can find me on LinkedIn, Craig Carroll, CraigCaryl. Just message me. I don't really Facebook. I'm not super into social media. Like if I want you to know what I ate for dinner last night, I'll call you and let you know. I live kind of a private life from that standpoint.
Right.
Um, but I, you know, I talk to old people a lot too. I ask old people questions, right? Like when I see a 90-year-old guy or person, I'll say, what's something that you can tell me that will make my life better? Old people have the wisdom. In America, we don't have intergenerational living anymore, sadly.
Right.
So a lot of that wisdom's getting lost. And I grew up around old people because my mom was a gerontologist, and I just loved them. From a little kid, I would be like, what was World War II like? What was the Great Depression like? I had these firsthand teachers. And so talk to old people, get their wisdom, it makes them feel like they matter. Um, Probably the most profound piece of wisdom I ever got was from a 92-year-old guy who was at a black tie event I was at, and I happened to, be sitting next to him, and I asked him that question, what can you tell me that will make my life richer? And he thought for a second. I actually recorded this on video because I found it so profound. He said, Craig, the most important things in life are not things. So just digest
There you
that for a
have it.
second. That's a very
Absolutely.
profound statement. And in my divorce, I lost everything. It was like a fire came through. Like I gave my wife everything. I was like, you can have all the money, you can have all the artwork, you can have everything. Take it all. She took my clothing, my photographs, as a kid, or they ended up in the garbage. I have no idea, but none of it defined me. I got what was important to me, which was my son. I got him out of that situation. I went and bought new clothing at Costco. Who cares? Didn't matter to me.
Yeah,
It's just
things are things. You can buy them, everything else. And yeah, thank you very much for sharing all of this with us. And I'm going to toss out one more resource, and that is stay tuned to the next episode of The Hardy Brain, the show that takes athletic, introverted entrepreneurs and leaders and transforms them into ironclad brain performers. Take care, everyone.